Welcome to Sunday Sessions, hosted by Vibe Unit. We are a collection of musicians located in Benton Harbor, Michigan. Our goal is to connect artists with local events and also host our own with the aim of connecting artists with one another and facilitating their creativity. One of the ways we accomplish this is this Sunday stream. We broadcast from here once a week and touch base with our community by talking with local artists or recording live sets with bands, or we workshop music with artists, as well as reporting on current events related to music or shows that are happening in the local area. So if you know anyone who would enjoy this, then share us around. We're broadcasting normally on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, though I was told as we got started that potentially Facebook is not working. Is that
still the case?
Is it
correct? Yeah, never
strange.
gave us the
Always
option
something,
to
huh?
go live. Yeah,
Well, that's one more thing we're going to have to look into. But anyways, we also have an Instagram if you'd like to keep up with us there. We'd also like to take a moment to thank our donors who have helped us meet many of our goals in terms of upgrades and getting our things kind of sorted out in terms of tech around here. We were able to replace some key pieces of our puzzle here that makes this operational. So thanks to all these people. We appreciate every single one of you. This would not be possible without you, so thank you. If you'd like to know how you can get involved with Vibe Unit, you can send us an email, media@vibeunit.com. We're currently looking for artists or bands that have at least a 30-minute original material set to live stream on our platform, and we would like to connect with you and provide you with more information on how to get involved in that. And again, the best way to do that would be media@vibeunit.com. And then I guess let's go to Mike. You got some information about some events coming up in the area.
I do.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, so it turns out we got a couple events coming up. One of the first ones is happening Wednesday. Looks like the Box Factory is having Matt Lenny host an open mic night. So there'll be another open mic night we can throw attention towards.
Got a little string of them coming up then. I think, what is it, the 5th is another open mic at the Livery. So
Yeah.
really getting the open mics going. And I think there's one at, I don't know any details about it, but there's one at the Acorn as well. So nice to see interest in open mics kind of coming up again.
So the one at the Box Factory will be hosted by Matt Lenny. If anyone came out to the last open mic night at the Livery, he actually performed.
Yep.
He's an artist himself. Really good guy. We had a moment to talk to him for a bit. Very approachable. But he's your guy if you're trying to work out any of the details. You can actually check out the way they're doing their signups there. They have a link. We're going to throw the link up on the screen. mattlenny.com/open-mic. Signups are there. First come, first serve, and they will keep those open until an hour before the show starts. So if you want to sign up, you got until that much time. And also, if you have any backing tracks, you could bring those. Just make sure you have the proper adapters to get to a 1/8" jack.
And for those who don't know, that's the standard
Just a
connector
standard.
that like headphones or whatever would have.
So, yeah, bring your proper adapters if you need them. I was also told that if the Box Factory has a good turnout, they'll be more inclined to do more of them. So, you know, the more open mic nights we have around here, the better. And so, yeah, be sure to check that out. And then John mentioned...
do they have a date and time for that then?
Did I not mention that? That will be Wednesday, March 1st, and it's from 7 to 9. So I guess sign-ups are going to be open until 6 o'clock p.m. on March 1st. So that's...
Gotcha. And then again, the sign-up you said was at mattlenny.com/open-mic.
Yep. And then the other thing, the other open mic night that's happening is actually at the Livery again. We're already there. It's crazy. It feels like we just had that.
Hey, didn't we? Wow.
We just got done with that.
This month has blown by.
It really has. The Benton Harbors Art Association has been gracious enough to be able to provide that, and they host that at the Livery. It's an open stage, and the signups for that begin at 4 p.m., and you show up to sign up for that. And the first set will begin at 5 p.m., and the sets go till 8 p.m. So if you want to do either one of those, you know, try to get signed up. Open mic nights are a really good way to, you know, try out the performance thing. If you're not comfortable with it yet and you got some material, come on out.
Or just kind of show off your stuff too.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be completely polished either.
Right.
You know, it's
Yeah.
a cool place to try maybe a new song or something too. If you want, it's a really supportive crowd. We
And-
really have enjoyed being out there for that.
And it's a good place too to get feedback on things if you're working things out.
Sure.
So and being comfortable with criticism and that kind of thing too, it's a good way to practice that.
Yeah.
So-
Well, and we always run into a number of friends every time we go out. Meet local musicians and people
it's
that we
inspiring.
love seeing out. So it's always a good time. We
Yeah.
really do enjoy that. So that'll be next Sunday, the 5th of March.
And then the other event, we actually have, this will be in a couple weeks, but we are going to be doing our open studio session, which is our new little thing we're starting here where on a Saturday, second Saturday, we come to this space right here and we hang out with musicians and we keep the cameras off and we just do kind of like a more, network based, just hang out with musicians and talk about stuff and just kind of encourage each other to keep pursuing our artistry.
If I had to guess, that's probably, if you were around in the very early days of this and we were just kind of hanging out in the basement and whatever, I think it's gonna kind of feel like that on Saturdays.
That's the term.
So that's kind of
yep.
what we're shooting for. So if you want to meet some new folks, come out and introduce yourselves. We'd love to get to know you and check out what you're up to. If you want to come down here and see what we're doing, what we're up to, we'd love to have you.
It's a low pressure. The intent is to be low pressure.
Yep.
Not feel like you have to, hit us up ahead of time. You know it's going on, and the time that starts is 2 p.m. on March 11th. That will be a Saturday.
2:00. Be there.
And it ends at 4 p.m. So a couple hours we can open the space, and that's like anything else. If we get a lot of interest in that and people are just biting at the bit to come out to that, we want to do more things like that. We want to see the interest.
Well, and that's kind of something I think that underscores all of these events is that, the growth of them is kind of predicated on growth in terms of folks coming out and supporting on that end of things too, So
Absolutely.
the more people are spending their time supporting local art in this way, I think the more opportunities will arise for that. So let's really, do what we can to try to make that happen.
I wanted to ask Ashley, can we do an audio check? I know last week we were having issues.
Already done, and
And
it
sounds good?
Wonderful.
That's
Great.
great. That's
We
good.
love to hear that.
Yeah, last week, maybe we should talk about what happened there.
We can talk about what happened there. So we had if you're into gear at all, we'll just nerd out for just a quick second
Let's
and then
do
be
it.
done. But we had an old USB Tascam interface, right? Big multi-channel one. Is actually one of the first ones I ever bought.
Old.
Real old. The drivers they put out for a while. There is a current version for Windows, but for whatever reason, when we rebuilt our stream computer, the very current, last version that there is for Windows, drivers don't work anymore. So we're like, well, we need to replace that.
Yeah.
We had another one sitting around. We said, genius, we'll just pull this one out and press it into service. Well, that's what we tried to do last week. So if you watched us try and crash last week, that was what was going on there. We sounded like we were being put through like a grinder or something.
Yeah.
So
Didn't feel good.
that had a similar problem we couldn't exactly figure out. And then we kind of realized, well, this is dumb because everything that we're doing in terms of this relies on quality audio
That
making
became
it to you.
It became the weakest point.
Yeah, so-
and we're supposed to be an audio-based sort of deal
Right.
here, and
So we bought a replacement.
kind of embarrassing.
And we made sure to get something that had as little that could go wrong as possible. So that was installed, Thursday.
yeah,
We came down here
yeah,
and did that.
Thursday.
And we tested it a little bit that day with the recording. We didn't actually stream that day, so we were just kind of
Yeah,
banking on, well, we'll try it Sunday, and hopefully it works out. So
and it
we're very
sounds
happy
like
it is working.
Is working.
Thank you to our donors.
That's good. So yeah, guess we can get into some of the stuff we were talking about earlier. I know it's been 2 weeks, so there's a lot to catch up on.
That's true. That's true.
A couple weeks back, I wanted to talk about this last week, and because of the audio issues we just mentioned, we couldn't. But I, a couple weeks back, was feeling very just drained creatively, But I mentioned on here, I think, a little bit, and I've been trying to develop my rhythm compositions better, learn drumming, and I bought a couple books, subscribed to a couple YouTube channels. I've been just watching things and getting inspired, listening to music more critically of the drums and how the rhythm sections work. So a couple weeks back when I lost drive of creativity. It's odd when that happens. It feels very weird, and it's like usually I can pull something from somewhere, and I just felt like I didn't have anything, and that's always like a scary feeling because there's kind of this existential like feeling that one day I'll lose the ability to tap into it. You know, it's like I don't feel like
the well will be dry one day.
yeah, like the well will be dry, or perhaps maybe I don't know. I'm kind of spiritual about music making, where I feel like I think some folks may think this way too, but I feel like I can pull it from where it exists, like wherever that well exists. Like I get access to it a little bit, and I'm like always afraid that the access will be revoked. You know, it's something like that. So it's like, oh no, is it time? Like, is it that moment where like now I don't get the key card to access the cool place?
That's funny.
But yeah, I was feeling that way. So I just decided, you know, I'm going to. I was working, and at work I listened to music, and I was listening to of all things 1975. I was listening to the album. That's a really long title. With the what I always ask Katie. I'm like, what's that title? Like the really long one and it's got a white album. She's like, they all have long titles. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's brief. I think it's called A Brief Inquiry into something. It's something about the internet. I don't know. But anyway, point is, I'm listening to this album, and I really enjoy the drums in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get home, and I'm going to. Oh, it's that one.
This
Brief Inquiry.
Oh. A Brief Inquiry into Online Relationships.
Yeah.
Album by the 1975. Dropped in 2018.
Yeah. I said after listening to that, I'm gonna let this inspire me, and I'm gonna go home today, and I'm going to attempt to write 60 minutes of drums. And my point of doing this is just to force myself into doing something rhythmic, and like it. I quickly realized that writing 60 minutes of something is, you know, it obviously is going to take more than an hour because you're being critical about it as you go and whatever. So I ended up stopping at 20 minutes. And the way I wrote the drums was like very, I didn't stick to tempo or anything. I like wrote drums in like a certain tempo. Then in Logic Pro, I would change the tempo, and then I'd write something in that section. And I ended up writing 20 minutes of stuff like this. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to add bass. So I added bass. I'm like, you know what, that's cool. And then I liked that there was moments in between my drum parts, between like the tempo changes, where it's like, it became like more atmospheric and stuff because there's no rhythm anymore. And then all of a sudden, the next thing I knew, I'm writing an EP. I had no idea I was going to even do that. I was just trying to challenge myself to write rhythm parts. So all that to say, I ended up deciding that I was going to like kind of like donate it to the Silhouette Plane Project, which is my friend Katie's band that I've been a part of. John's been a part of helping out in that, and I lately have been more committed to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, man, one thing I know Katie and I both are trying to do, another goal of mine and a goal of hers, is to be able to play a show. So I said, Katie, I got this entire EP now written out on a thing. Do you want to write lyrics to it? And she's like, yeah. That'd be awesome. So I was like, okay, cool. Write some lyrics to it. So she's working on that. And then I didn't even think of this at first, but then I decided I'm going to ask Hannah, my sister. She's been getting pretty lethal on the drum machine. I'm like, Hannah, do you want to learn the drum parts to this and like make some rhythms on the TR-8S? She's like, I don't know if I can. I'm like, look, just come up with some cool stuff. And she's like, all right, I'll try. So now Hannah's kind of roped into this. So in a weird way, like the Silhouette Plane Project, which was started by Katie, is kind of like taking a direction of like kind of like including myself and my sister in a way that's really cool we hadn't done before, and I'm excited about it. So that's really what I wanted to talk about a couple weeks ago. But yeah, it's been really cool. I'm not going to share any of the music yet. I haven't even shown you.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have not heard this yet. So,
but I'm really proud of like what it is, and I'm excited to hear what Katie does with it because I feel like her additions are going to lead to inspiration. So I don't know. We'll see. I have nothing really more to say about it right now, without it sounding like I'm talking in circles. So
that's exciting.
yeah,
It's cool to hear about.
I'm nervous about performing stuff usually, but I think that's usually because I'm not prepared to do it. If I prepare really well, I'm never nervous. So
I've only, to be honest with you, rarely been in a position with others to feel like, because you know what you're doing when you're in a band and you're playing with people and you're doing a show. It's like, yes, you can be very prepared, but it isn't really just riding on you. Like you could be the most prepared anyone could possibly be, and if everybody else isn't that prepared, I'm not saying it doesn't help, but it doesn't make as big of a difference as it should.
yeah,
Because some of what you've prepared is probably gonna have to make way for whatever else is going on.
right.
And I've just found that to be true. You know, it's difficult to really feel like, hey, where I'm going, everybody's going to the same place. But when you find that, it's like, yes, go and
Yeah.
chase that. So when you find the right pieces that actually has everybody going like, yeah, I know what needs to happen there. There's no like, there's less to prepare. You know what
do
I'm
you
saying?
think-
Because you were involved in.
Do you think
You're
because
just duplicating the thing you started with to start with that was inspirational, right? It's like,
so
there's-
the
there's
fact
a
that I have
pleasure
it
in
all
that.
kind of like written out is going to help
Yeah,
us.
that's great.
In
Yeah.
what you're saying.
I think so.
That's cool. Yeah, that's good because I'm not very. I'm usually not very confident about sharing my own work with people because and we talked about this before the stream started, but sometimes I feel like including people means I'm like they might feel obligated to do it, and I feel like that's trapping them into work. And so like I'm very careful about. Well, and it's not just that. That's half of it. The other half is like, am I going to be committed to this after I present it? Like, I'm also signing myself up for work.
Right.
Because now there's a little bit of expectation that, like, if I'm asking people to do this, I need to commit to it too. And traditionally, you know how this is. We've worked together for years. Genres for me can change day to day.
That's true.
And like things I'm trying to pursue and I'm interested in. Because I approach music so open ended and exploratory. Like it's what's catching my attention today? I'm very ADD about it, but what I'm starting to recognize now is there are certain things in music that I do tend to gravitate towards. Like I know I want a Telecaster with a chorus. You know, I want tape delay. I know I want like rhythm to feel a certain way, and I like certain progressions. So I don't know. It's kind of cool. Like now, I think at 31 years old, I'm starting to narrow it down a little bit.
That's good.
Because
I sometimes feel the opposite, like my rut's a little too deep, you know, where it's like sometimes it's hard to like find the right things to pour in to actually make the rut be wider instead of just deeper. You know what I'm saying?
when we worked together, I really enjoyed our ball pit session that we had.
Yeah,
a couple
that's
weeks
awesome. And I should actually mention, I have some more material related to that I've been working on.
Okay,
as well.
I have some Sonic stuff to add, like in terms of
We should probably schedule something then coming up here.
Yeah, that'd be
So-
great. Yeah, along on the tail end. So I'm done with the Silhouette playing project thing, but still want to talk about rhythm. I feel like something I really enjoy about. So we haven't mentioned this too much. Maybe we did on a live stream a while ago, but John and I a few weeks back we started doing like just jam at his place, and we started coming up with this like really funky style of I was like, wait, is something going wrong? Sorry. Ashley caught my attention for a second. She's trying to crack into an outer butter. I thought maybe something was going wrong with the stream.
You caught me.
I have PTSD from the
See,
stream
that
failing.
sound of you turning the switch on and off is very similar to the wrapper being
That-
unwrapped. So
it was, yeah. It had the same.
it
You
kind of
never
gives you
know.
that little tick where you're like, wait, we have to get barged with like some important information. Like,
So far, so good.
cool.
I'm sorry for derailing that, but
That's fine.
But anyway, the day we were at your house, we just started making music, and I think I had Renoise running on my laptop, and I was just throwing out some loops and stuff, and you were recording it into audio into your DAW, and John, we haven't really talked about it yet in the live stream too much, but John and I got sort of like a band going, which I'm very committed to.
Collective of sorts, I guess.
And we also we decided to call the band Ball Pit because I don't know, it just at the time it seemed good, and I kind of like the way like when you write out ball pit, like the B is a mirror image of the P, and you can do a lot of cool like album art with it, I think, and we've already kind of experimented with some.
It's like
It's more about like the aesthetic of the word and like kind of, I don't know, it's interesting because when I say it out loud, ball pit, the word pit is kind of an odd word to me because it's like armpit, but like I'm not thinking about that when I say ball pit. I think of like maybe there's a syringe at McDonald's ball pit in like the bottom, and that's dangerous. But yet, like it looks fun to jump in to the ball pit.
I don't know, dude.
There's just a lot of directions you could take with a name like that. I want the parents to allow us to like I want the parents to be like, yeah, I'll buy you that album if this was the 90s. Like, yeah, ball pit, how bad can it be? But like it's like, you know,
Something like that.
we're trying to be marketable.
I guess.
But
I'm
like-
just trying to make
but-
dope
but-
music personally.
Yeah, I was joking, really. I'm not even sure where that joke
but
started and
Mike's
ended.
but Mike's correct. Like we got together, we made some stuff. We made like two tracks that day
Yeah.
of various levels of completion, of course.
Can
and then
confirm that it sounds really, really good.
good.
Yeah, and I like that. I won't draw too much attention to this. I'm going to mention it here just because I think it's funny. It's super funny. And I don't even know if you know where I'm going with this, but sometimes you'll hear that at the livery playing on the speakers in certain
I
circumstances.
did check it there a couple times just because, like let me hear it in a different room and different speakers, whatever.
I just thought it was really cool to hear it because it's one of the things. Here's what I'll say about it. What I like about it, it's not, the music itself is not like begging for attention. But when you do give it attention, I think it's enjoyable. Like we're not like out
It's
there.
not like
we're-
full like audio assault, you know.
Yeah.
It's super chill
modest.
and laid back.
It's modest, and I think it's how you and I like to present ourselves. We're very we want to be respectful as much as possible.
Yeah. So we'll see what comes of it. I mean, the point is we kind of came up with a flow that we liked, which was like committing audio as much as we could.
Yep.
We had a rough palette that we like kind of starting from because there's certain structure to the sonics of it that just come from that pre-work. And then, yeah, you were kind of coming in with a combination of like re-noise and some other stuff, just kind of basically doing all the color
Yeah.
and texture. And I was basically making like a main like drum and bass related groove. And then we just would go through and like fill around it and figure out where it needed to go. And I kind of have applied that same, at least for the piece of it that we were starting those others from. I've done that again probably 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
So it'd be fun to get together and play with that again.
Yeah, there's a lot of really exciting ideas spinning around my head related to that, and I like that it's got like a funkiness to it, which I think lends itself to like creativity. Like we can expand sonically pretty wide, I think, within the framework we have. I mean, we didn't paint ourselves into any corners. Synthesizers of all types are welcome, in other words.
Well, and the basic loop was not busy.
No.
Like nothing.
Yeah.
The stuff, the template or like the phrase that it started from, there's really nothing to, which I think is probably the strength of the whole process we were working from in that. So yeah, it was a good time. We'll do more of it, I'm sure. But we also like could do the same sort of collaborative thing on a Saturday. So,
Yeah.
come out and see us.
Yeah. I guess like it's really cool, and I'm glad we're connecting with a bunch of folks. Like you were telling me, I have it in my notes here, but you were telling me last week how you had talked to our friend over in Detroit about like bass.
I'm always talking to Mark about bass. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got a buddy named Mark out there, best bass player I know, like hands down. Like, and he was learning a song, like trying to memorize a certain kind of Motown classic, and we just started having a conversation about like basically growing up in Detroit and like the pedigree that kind of comes with that, and it's just crazy. It's like we actually had a similar conversation at work the other night because we had a band come in last night called Modern Natives. They're from Alaska. And they were kind of asking, like, when you go to a state or you go to a place, like, everybody has their thing.
Yeah.
What's the Michigan thing? And it's like, well, some people say, like, the Wolverine state or, the Great Lakes state or, just various things like that.
Yeah, what'd you guys think of?
I think Great Lakes state is, like, what comes to my mind first.
That's same.
But like every state sort of has their thing. There's a reason I was getting into this. I just lost my train of thought.
We were talking about bass and Mark and
yeah. So like we started talking about like, oh well, what's the like what does Michigan have going for it in terms of music? I can't believe I lost that. That's crazy. What does Michigan have going for it in terms of music? And so we just started like listing off like artists that have gone on to become very notorious in their respective lanes for their artwork.
Yeah.
And it's like, you start going down the list and it's like we had gone through 20 artists and hadn't even mentioned anything Motown related. And it's not because it doesn't hold weight or it isn't super important. It's just like that's how much stuff of note has come out of here. That like
that's a good point.
So much stuff
Yeah.
of note has come out of here since then that you only almost get to bring it up if either that's the thing you're really into or if you've like made it far enough back in like the history to get to that point and recognize it for what it was at that time. But like, I mean, what an amazing thing.
Yeah.
I mean, half of the stuff that I'm trying to emulate, when I pick up, say, a bass guitar, it's like stuff that I hear listening to old Motown records. Like, because there's something in those like funk and soul records that just like you don't find anywhere else. And it's interesting that it's not like there's so many other things where you go, oh, that's the Nashville thing, that's the LA thing, but it's like, but the Motown thing, like,
Yeah.
that's a Michigan thing, that's a Detroit thing.
Wasn't there a band recently that came through the livery that you got to interact with that was kind of in that wheelhouse, little soulful, little Motowny? What was that band?
I don't know about Motown.
Okay. It was a soul band of some sorts. I felt like you'd mentioned something about that. I can't remember.
I'm not sure about a soul band. We did have a band come through that was like they had a horn section. That was cool. But that was they had a little bit of funk sort of stylings, but I don't know if I'd say quite a soul band.
Right.
I'm just looking right now to see.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely certain. But anyways,
Well,
not important.
Well, yeah, when you were talking about the bass stuff to Mark, that actually inspired me to put some foam by the bridge. So
Yeah, like there's a bunch of a bunch of stuff that people started doing when they were recording a lot of those classic records before that people weren't really doing, and they had more to do with like pragmatic approaches to dealing with certain problems, like
strings are too bright
or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know all the history of all those things, so I'm not going to speak authoritatively about it. It's just like any other thing when that sort of scene comes up out of something and becomes popular and kind of, at least for the time, jumps into the forefront of what people are paying attention to. It's like it automatically just spawns a bunch of other things that end up being important in the industry, And that's been true for everything. Like I remember, and I'm not going to, I don't have an opinion on this one way or the other. I don't know. But, like, for example, you might have heard this. People talk a lot about, like, the first AC/DC record, which, to be fair, sounds so good. And, like, I don't like old music. I shouldn't
first
say
record
this. Like,
sounds good.
I shouldn't say this, like, in public or whatever. But, yeah, I think pretty much all the music from that era has its place, but I don't enjoy the way it sounds. That's just me. That being said, when you hear a record of that era that sounds clean and is recorded really well, like where all the sources are like natural and sound accurate, it almost like makes you think like okay, like check the year on that, like this was really made then. It's not a remaster or anything. It's like no, it was just they did a really good job. And then of course, like anything else, people always go after chasing that thing, right? if you're a kid and sitting in a bedroom learning to play guitar, like hell yeah, you're gonna learn some
Yeah, you wanna sound like
AC/DC
AC/DC
riffs,
riffs, yeah.
100%, right? But if you're chasing after whatever that sound is, it's like I've done research where people argue about it all the way down to like people claiming that they were in the studio when the recording was made, and that like they that apparently when they were doing those recordings, they had some very early like primitive wireless gear that they would use when they'd play shows. But I guess like because it wasn't great equipment, because none of the wireless gear at the time was great, it did certain things to the sound, and I guess they ended up using the wireless even in the studio because of whatever it does to it. It just wasn't quite the same without it. So it's like that's one of those things where there is a company out there I found that makes a box that isn't even wireless. It just has the same like circuit as that old box would have had in it to supposedly like emulate that bit of the chain.
How legitimate is that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my whole point. Like people get that deep into trying to analyze the little tiny details of things, and it turns out like it might have just been as simple as I don't know, things just weren't working that day, so we did this and it just worked, I guess.
Yeah, and then you try to reverse engineer
And
it.
then it looks like, oh man, like that's super boutique, or like somebody made certain specific
So you
calls.
think-
It's like nah.
So what I'm gathering from what you're saying is sometimes we put a lot of weight on snap decisions that we think like it's not as deep usually.
I don't think so in a lot of cases,
I agree.
which is a lot of fun when you dig into the history of things and you find that sort of thing out, and you
Yeah.
find out that that's how it is. It's interesting. Like I've noticed the same sort of thing when like Josh from JHS talks about
Yeah.
various pedal history stuff, or he'll have people on that are involved in his industry. And when he asks some questions about like, yeah, well, how did that happen? Or how do you come up with that? And they end up being like, I don't know, we were just like drinking coffee and somebody said it and it was like, well, screw it, I guess. I don't have any better ideas. We'll just
It's
go
like-
with it. And you're like, really? Because when I saw it as the consumer, I was like, somebody really thought about this and like really took care. And it's like, no, nobody, it was almost an accident.
And sometimes too, like a lot of those things are a bunch of trial and errors that lead to moments of success. Like that's why I think it's important. I guess like this matters for everything in our community. Even would benefit from knowing this, but sometimes it's just a lot of time spent on something to get these moments, and like maybe it was a mistake at
Well,
the
half
time.
the fun's the attempts.
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
And I think that maybe was some of the fun of some of the music we were working on together. We were just
Mhm.
mentioning earlier. It's
Yeah, we were
like,
just
there's
trying
a little
stuff.
bit more of like a, I don't know, try it. Like let's just see.
And so I
kinda
guess
thing.
going forward, we should remember maybe this is important for us. It's not what we used. It's like the attempt of how we did it. Like what were we doing? Like if we're gonna create more music, it's not about
It's not the
replicating.
destination; it's the journey.
It is actually. I'm
like that?
I'm well, yeah, of course I do.
There it is.
the that's basically like kind of like a pillar that I'm realizing is part of my life. It's like you got to enjoy what you're doing to have that moment of success.
That's true.
And if you don't enjoy the grind, well, the event or the showcase isn't going to be as exciting, or it might be too much pressure.
True.
So I don't know. You gotta. I'll tell you what. Before anyone knew I was, like, I can only speak for myself personally. But before I would go around telling people I know how to play music and stuff, there was a lot of time I spent not telling people that. Like, when you're learning stuff, learning music for me has been such a, like, I guess you could say, independent. It's like an individual pursuit. Like I'm not doing it I'm not an entertainer, I don't think. So my approach to music making has always been I'm fulfilled by the exploration, but I've found out that because I'm focused on the exploration and the journey and the building, that now I'm in a spot where I could perform and do things like that, but that was never my goal. I wasn't learning music to be a performer. I was learning music because I do that. That's what I do. And I can say that if I approach performing with if I approach performing with this is just something I do because I did the thing I wanted, and performing is like the secondary thing, then it's a lot more comfortable to be on stage. But if I approach performing as like this is what it's all about, I don't find that it's as fulfilling. It just isn't for me. I can't speak for anyone else.
I think that probably is a fairly universal take, to be honest. Because, like, yeah, I think if the focus is just about the show, all you can do is kind of be disappointed.
That's how it seems, yeah.
Because there's like only one win condition, and everything else is a failure condition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard. It's
So-
very stressful.
Whereas, like you said, if you put in the grind ahead of time, it's just something that you can do.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like it's like the way I've been having it said to me, and I'm this is just how I've interpreted it, and this is over years of being told this. People say, well, you should show your stuff. You should show what you're working on. You know, you should put it out there. I agree, but
I agree.
but at the same time too, understand that pressure to put things out is not motivated by. It's not motivated by like I want to put it out. It's more like it'd be selfish not to, because there's other people involved, or like I put in a lot of effort here. And if it's true that like the way I view music making is like you're pulling from a well of some sort, it's almost like, well, I was given the opportunity to understand this music for myself. I should be sharing that at least, and not in any way to like brag about it. That's so far from my thinking in this. Like I don't care about that. Like anyone could have made the song. I don't care. Point is, I got the opportunity to make it. I should just share it. Like, you know, like who cares? I don't expect to do anything but be maybe a moment, even if like one person just likes it, you know, okay, good. That's great. You know, I just think it's the reason
You already got one person to like it. That's you, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
You made it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
I don't know.
It's just like, I guess like the point I'm trying to make is like, I don't care about sharing it. I care about making it, but I also know that like, I guess the part that's the part that I get fulfilled by when I do share it, because there is something in it for me to share. I'm not saying it's like, oh, I don't care at all about sharing. I do care about sharing it because I like connecting with people.
Sure.
And so like that is one thing, like connecting is cool. For me, there's a lot of concern with sharing and connecting with people, because it's like, well, what if they don't receive what I've created as something that they like or enjoy? So like that's another reason why I didn't share music for a long time. It's because like I was like, I don't think anyone else really wants to hear this. And again, it's like music's one of those things you have to experience through time. And so like, since it's art stretched across time, I'm literally taking time from somebody to have them listen or share what I've created. So it's like, it really, for me, like I'm still working this stuff out. I'm kind of in like no man's land in this conversation at this point, but like I'm trying to be very respectful of people's time with my music too. I don't want to just like always share what I'm making, because it's like, well, if I share it with you every time I make a 5-minute song, I'm taking 5 minutes from your life every time.
I mean, they can stop it at 5 seconds in if it's really not their cup of tea, but. You
Well,
know.
then, but very true. At the same
Like,
time,
you're
too.
not-
At the same time,
it's not
too.
like they're being
Okay.
sitting in a room being forced to listen to it.
Then in that case, if I do start releasing music and people do that, you are more than welcome to stop it at any time. Okay? Like, you don't have to enjoy it. I don't expect that.
No,
Like, sometimes you share something and you want someone's reaction from it.
yeah.
And like people want to be nice and they don't want to tell you that they don't like it. And you know what? I'm just going to say, like, if you want to stop it, do it. Like, I don't care. Like, the point isn't for me to I guess that's why it all comes full circle, right? The point of me making the music was not to share it necessarily, but I'm going to. The point of me making it is because I like to do it. So, you know, I will share it and not put so much pressure on myself about sharing stuff. But at the same time, too, don't put pressure on yourself when you're listening to it. Accept it for what it is. Be critical of it. But don't understand, I don't expect you to enjoy it necessarily. I don't think that's the point.
Right.
I don't know. It's hard. Again, I'm in no man's land here. I'm being very...
You're working it out.
I'm working it out verbally right now. This isn't gonna. I mean, I might change my opinion about this in a week. I'm just like right now in the moment feels.
Well,
like
maybe I'll just ask you about it next week.
Yeah, maybe.
Have you had any new epiphanies?
Yeah, maybe.
about the listener.
Maybe
of
give
your
it
art.
maybe give it a year.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair
One more
enough.
year.
We'll circle it back around.
Yeah, I'm trying not to sound conceited when I say any of that stuff. It's actually a very weird conversation because it can very easily come across that I'm like conceited, and I'm trying desperately not to sound that way.
Oh, I mean, I understand because I have no idea still at this point what where the line is between like being a braggart and just simply like promoting what you actually have spent
Yeah.
time and resources on becoming competent at.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know where the line is, and so I just rather would not talk about it.
I kind of like how we do this with Vibe Unit, where like regardless of what the product is on a week-to-week basis, we attempt it and we do it, right?
Yeah. Well, and as time goes on, we'll figure out, I think, even more exactly what we're trying to do, like, and get all the
I think
minor bumps.
I think
worked
that's
out.
one thing I liked about when we did Skylight Huddle.
Yeah.
Is like sometimes you'll go back and listen to those sessions and it's like, wow, we were doing some fun stuff. You know, I thought we were being really cool. In fact, that is something I want to bring back once I can figure out, I got some gear to update and stuff myself because, you know, I'm starting to get outdated in a lot of stuff too. But I do want to start doing that again at some point. I don't know what it looks like but
I mean, given how we were doing it before, we could just come down here with some synthesizers. Really, that'd
be cool.
That's basically what we were doing.
So if we were to start, I guess we could talk about this right now for just a moment. If we were to do Skylight Huddle again, by the way, if you're watching or wondering what that was, I started a YouTube channel around the same time we started Vibe Unit, and the focus of it was more about, like I guess you'd say like more into the details of the gear, and we were I think the shots that we chose with the video work was more intimate, and like it was more focused on like synthesizers or like we were messing with that drum machine a little bit, but it's more about like desktop, like tabletop gear, which could include a lot of things, unconventional instruments and stuff like even I think one episode showcased that Nintendo DS. I think there was one, and then there's one where I was playing with that Polyon on there when I first was getting into that. But it's supposed to be like a sandbox of just like messing with gear, and I want to kind of do that again, I think, and I like a lot of the stuff we did on there where it was just kind of off the top of our heads, and we were messing with like it. I don't know, one episode where we had a drum machine, and we just figured out that wow, you can send a lot of like the drum to the reverb channel and build like this really like energetic like reverb, like whatever you call that, and then you'd cut it off and it would just like it'd feel like a riser.
Yeah,
or
cut the
something.
return.
Yeah, you cut the return. It's so cool. And like it's just little, it's like okay, it's not about the music and exactly, it's about like the process of what we're doing, and so I love that. I thought that was cool.
We'll probably need to do more of that because I like I was saying before we started broadcasting, I've keep coming across these old pieces of gear on eBay that I just kind of want. I just want it. You know
Just
what I
like-
mean?
Yeah.
And it's old and not expensive, and it has a nostalgia to it. Like I'm looking at like old Romplers and like old EMU like rack like synths and stuff
Yeah.
that are cheap, and just hearing them and going, yeah, it's not good, but like the reason it's not good is because it's missing pieces that you could add.
Right.
Like, you know, like the way we did it on Skylight. It's like, oh, like that synth needs some reverb. It's like, well, then maybe just get a reverb pedal and put
Yeah.
that on there, you know? And we did a lot of that
on the fly,
kind of
just
thing.
try to figure. Yeah.
I'm just seeing all this space and going, let's go even bigger than we did. Like we could set up an 8-foot table in here and just lay out synths. It's like,
What? What camera am I on? What? You guys hearing this?
so yeah, I would like to do something like that again. That was a lot
Okay.
of fun.
Well, maybe we'll start doing that. Maybe that will be like a once in a while thing we do on a Sunday when it's just you and I, if we aren't doing news related stuff or
Sure.
talking. That'd be fun. And if you're into, I think this area, as far as I gathered from local musicians, I don't know how many other people are into synthesis to the degree that I am. But if you're out there and you're around and you know me, let me know, because I am so down to talk about it with somebody. I've been told that no one knows anyone else who's into it as much as me in this area. So if there is someone in the area and you perceive you are really excited, or if maybe you're just newly trying to get into it, Like I
The
do have
term ADSR means something to you. You may be entitled to a good time with other local musicians.
and also this is something I've kind of tossed around. I'm just gonna bring it up here, but there's nothing set in stone. I've gotten really obsessed with Eurorack stuff, but I don't have the money to afford and Eurorack is like modular synth.
Oh yeah.
Right. That stuff can get really expensive. If you know what I mean, modular synths are like little modules. They look like guitar pedals kind of, but they go into a rack and they let you build your own synthesizers with the components that a synthesizer would have. Wanted to do this for a long time. Obviously in 2020 when everyone's at home, it got really popular because people were just kind of obsessing over gear and stuff during that time. I was one of those people that was obsessing over that stuff. Off the tail end of all that, it was brought to my attention that there is a program that is completely free to mess with called VCV. And what this program is it's a software that lets you emulate Eurorack modules, and you can build your own synthesizers. So if you own a computer, I would guess a Mac would be best for this, but PCs can do it too, with the right specs. If you have a computer that can run VCV and you're trying to learn about synthesizers and stuff, that would be a really cool place to teach out of, because
Is that free software?
it's free software. There is a pay for version,
But I mean, like, if you're just trying to
but if you're just
play
trying
around
to,
with it and figure
Yeah.
out like how it works, is that something you can just get into for free?
yeah. So
Cool.
like if I was maybe one thing they do on the other podcast I listen to, they recommend something every week. This will be my recommendation for the day. Like
Just go have a look at it.
yeah, go have a look. Go have a look at the VCV rack if you're interested. Because if you have a computer, I'm gonna also say this. I'm a very big fan of taking what you already own and trying to push its potential. If you own a Mac laptop, and you're interested in music, but you think you have to get gear, I'm here to tell you, you don't.
You're most of the way there. At most, you probably need an interface.
A laptop like I have, this is an older laptop.
And you may not even need that, depending on what you're trying to do.
This older laptop, though, can run pretty much everything I want to run. And also, there are folks out there that believe music should be accessible and gear should be accessible to some degree. And they make free programs for you to try out. I mean, you have to be careful about where you download stuff from, but there's so many. I'll tell you this: a lot of people my age, and I know John knows this band, but if you ever listen to Owl City, all the music he made was on like GarageBand, and it's which is really cool. And you don't even need a laptop, by the way. If you have an iPhone, which 90% of the people I know have iPhones. And get a new iPhone every year. Funny enough, or every couple of years. You have the ability to make music. I mean, Michael Terry, who comes on here sometimes, he showed me so many songs he's written on his iPhone.
I don't even think it's like an additional thing you have to like buy. I think
No.
it's just if you have
it, you have it. Like you have access to
you may
making
have to go
music.
download it though, because I'm not sure that it's included by default. It is like a 4 or 5 gig download, I think. But there's sounds in it and everything. I mean, there's instruments. There's like, it's actually kind of shocking what's available.
I'll just say this: if you see this, I'm not going to do anywhere. I'm not going to talk about this anywhere else, but I'm going to talk about it here today. I might mention it again on the stream in the future, but hit me up if you're interested in learning about this stuff. We could probably work out a way to get some folks involved to start like maybe doing like a group of people like learning stuff like that. I know John, you've got stuff like that too, that if you wanted to ever get into that, it'd be pretty easy.
Yeah, we've been kind of talking a little bit about that, like if there's anything that would be useful or helpful in terms of knowledge or training that we could kind of workshop out. Like there's nothing that I know that I'm not willing to share with somebody.
In my case, I'll say this: I will be very directed at like the things I can offer that I'd be comfortable teaching. Like if like the VCV thing, like learning about that, I'm still learning it myself. So having other people involved will also help push me to more knowledge. And then also, if you're into like iPads or iPhones and stuff, like there's so many like. I have a synthesizer on my iPhone. Well, you even did this on the stream a few weeks ago. I used an iPad as a Korg piano, I was using my MIDI controller I have over there, plugging it into the iPad, and it sounded as good as most things. It's just incredible, like the access people have to the stuff. Like, so I guess John and I have a lot of gear and a lot of things, but I've noticed lately I've been trying to condense things down, and I've been just really enjoying the portability of music making. Like, pull out an iPhone or pull out an iPad, and now you have an entire workstation. Like, that's insane.
Right.
And the kids, like, when I say kids, I mean young adults, like high school and early 20s, like they have had iPhones their whole lives. And you know what? I bet, and you may be out there watching me right now, I bet you know stuff about the way iPhones work with like music making tools, if you're into that I have no idea. And I'd love to learn from you too. So
Yeah, 100%.
all right,
Yeah, I'm
well,
not
that's-
exactly like up on that either.
Yeah, we know a lot about like the gear we had, and the gear we own, we know a lot about. But when it comes to that stuff, we don't. I mean, when you want to make music, what do? You pull up to a computer.
I grab the closest thing to me that will make some noise.
Yeah.
That's the kind of noise I want.
Yeah. Like, very seldom do I grab my iPhone.
Yeah.
I don't do that. But yet I could. So I don't know. I just think it's cool. And yeah, I rambled a bit, but
That's okay.
that's what.
The point of it all is whatever you've got, you can probably start doing something with it now, if you're
Yeah.
willing to look around a little bit and see what tools are available. VCV is definitely one of those
It's fun.
You know,
Oh man, and it looks nice.
batteries included type of things, right?
Yeah.
So definitely to give that a
There
give
and
that
there's a
look.
huge community of people developing for it. It's an open source software, so you can actually, if you're into coding, you can actually make your own modules and you can do your own things.
Nice.
They give you all the tools to do it. So yeah, it's a remarkable thing. I like the community aspect of that. So all right, anything?
Well,
We've been going for almost an hour.
getting
52
close, I
minutes.
guess. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess let's just remind people about our viewers and anyone watching what events we have. Today is February 26th. This is session 110, and this week we have the Box Factory is doing their open mic night, March 1st from 7 to 9. Then we have the Benton Harbors Art Association hosting an open stage at the Livery, and that will be on Sunday, March 5th. And the sign-ups begin at 4. Show begins at 5. And then we have our open session in 2 weeks. Not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, March 11th at 2 p.m. We're doing an open session here.
I'm just checking something here.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, who's...
So I was just checking to see. So the Acorn Theater
Mhm.
also has an open mic. So if you're trying to hit the whole open mic circuit, right? That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the other one that we know about, and I do have the information here. That is going to be Wednesday on the 15th of March. That's going to be at 7 p.m. The doors, though, are going to open at 6, and it sounds like the sign-up is at the time when you go. I don't see anything here. There is a performer inquiries email, which is openmic@acornlive.com or .org. Sorry. So if you're trying to look into that, maybe check out acornlive.org and see what they're up to there. And that's on March 15th. So yeah, we got 3 of them.
Yeah, that's really cool. About a year ago, we were talking about how there isn't a lot of opportunity, and it turns out this year that is the complete opposite.
Can't say that anymore.
Can't
can
say
we?
that anymore. Things seem to be getting a lot more lively. Ash and I were driving in here this morning, and we realized there's a lot of folks out driving around doing things, and that was really cool to see.
Cool.
Okay, so one last thing. I'll do the sign off here, but
Sure.
just want to one more time. Could we throw our donors up one more time? I just want to really highlight that. If you're on this list, thank you. We have had the last few weeks have been lots of ups and downs with the way we're running things here. In terms of our gear, things have been breaking, and we've been trying to keep up with it. So if you're on this list, we wouldn't be streaming today if it wasn't for you. So thank you very much. And we have a Cash App and a Patreon. If you are wanting to support us financially, that is extremely appreciated. share this around. And if you're interested in being on a live stream, right now we're currently looking for bands and artists that have at least 30 minutes of material. We want to do kind of the NPR Tiny Desk sort of thing, or like an Audio Tree or KEXP sort of showcase of a band. So, email us, give us an idea of if you have any material that you've already done, let us know, or give us links and all that. But emails, media@vibeunit.com. We'll try to work something out. We're gonna be very picky about who we put on a showcase in terms of readiness. We want you to have something to showcase. We want it to be like you're prepared to play at a actual gig, like an actual event. We're going to treat it like a show. So if, however prepared you'd be for going to play at a venue, you should be prepared to play here.
All the information for that is at vibeunit.com as well.
And then the other thing we're looking for are folks who know a lot about certain topics in the music-related field. Maybe you're a recording artist, or maybe you are a proficient in some instrument, or you just know the history of music in the area, and you're just interested in talking about that. We want to have like a art/music focused session where we bring you in to have a conversation, ask you questions. We're kind of looking for folks like that ourselves, and we may ask some of you out there. We might send an invite to you to be on with us, and just because we're interested in what you're doing. We already had a couple folks in mind for that, but it's kind of a weird ask to say, hey, if you want to brag about yourself, let us know. but the point is we're just or if you know somebody who you think we would find it interesting to talk to, maybe nominate them to come on because that might be a little bit more comfortable. But let us know, and we can reach out to those folks and get them on here. I'm certain we live in a very inspiring area. There's got to be someone out there who wants to come in, and if you're interested in meeting John and I, we're just as interested in meeting you. We're trying to present ourselves as unintimidating as possible and being very open and not prideful in any way. We're very open about learning and where we lack knowledge. So not that anyone out there, I may be projecting a bit on what how I'm being perceived, but I want to meet people and just have conversations. So yeah, anyway, this was session 110, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning in.
We'll be here next week. Thanks again.